Everyone bought the dip. The nice bottom there at in the 18,000s for Bitcoin. Pretty wild market action. I hope everyone's staying safe, not over leveraged. Ghost is chilling as normal. Nice to see. Oops, Hefe, I think I pushed the wrong button there. I think I dismissed. Try to come up again.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Oh, it's been a good day. Yep. Nice Sunday. Had to go outside for a little bit during the day and do some real life things, but yeah, it's been overall a very nice day. How about you?
Pretty good, man. I've been busy. Have a little. I've been setting up a little garden, so I've been like trying to get all my veggies in the ground. But that's
There you
been
go.
like outside of the Gotchiverse.
What are you growing?
A whole bunch of stuff. Like I usually do tomatoes, like lettuce, kale, carrots. I think I'm doing potatoes. I got some area there to do some growing. A little community garden.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then I also sold my car the other day. I'm surprised at these used car prices, man. Like it's crazy out there.
Man, I was just like chatting with my parents who are also gardening. It's kind of fun. But they were trying to buy a new car and they're like they're in Virginia and they're just like they can't find a car. It's like, what do you mean you can't find a car? They're like, the dealerships don't have cars anymore. And like the all used cars are like selling at the same price as new cars. It's like what's happening over there? People are
Yeah,
flipping
man.
cars.
I have well, I work pretty much. I'm at home all day. I don't really go anywhere, and we have two cars. So I decided to sell my older vehicle, and it's like a 2006 Mazda 3. So it's like nothing special. It's like not a great car to be honest. Like it runs, but I sold it for almost 9 grand, which was which was like outrageous because that's like almost 4x the price I paid for it like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, yeah, that's part of it, I guess, is like the supply chain side. There must be a lot of reasons. I mean, that's pretty wild. The fact that like I'm like you can't get a used car for a decent price in the US right now blows
It's
my
not.
mind.
It's crazy, but I think I might be going bazaar shopping here pretty soon. I might try and grab some wearables.
There you go.
Yeah, right on. So I guess we still got people coming in. Got 28 people. Um, it'll be a good DAO discussion. I think we had quite a few SIG props go up
Mhm.
there and get approved this last week. So I think we'll be seeing probably, hopefully some of these move to core prop and we can like get past some of these hangups.
Mhm. Yeah, the DAO's been very active. We're still in terms of like votes. I was looking at something, they were like number 3 in terms of votes in the entire world. But if you look at like the number of voters compared to the number of votes, we're definitely like number 1 in the world as a DAO. It's pretty nuts. Lots of action.
Yeah, it's been I think it's got my interest in governance because I was never into politics or anything, but I really enjoy doing this, like doing the DAO politics. Like the Gotchiverse version of politics is just so much nicer than what we've normally experienced.
Yeah.
I think over time we'll have like DAO politicians that are like, very active, almost like mayors, like district mayors.
Yeah, like yeah, we've seen a lot of DAOs. They typically launch with a DAO politician kind of thing built in. Like if for optimism, still haven't claimed my airdrop. I was too lazy to go over to optimism, but I remember looking at it and you had to like choose a delegate that you wanted to delegate your OP to. Like right off the bat, it was just like, okay, we know you're not going to vote, so go delegate to someone else. Like that's I don't know if that's really the right way to go about bootstrapping your DAO. Like telling people they should be delegating their votes.
That's something you guys were trying to avoid from the start, right? Is voter apathy. Oh yeah, someone
Yeah.
else can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why we give XP for every vote that people do. Because yeah, and we do have some delegation obviously with the vault and I think they're doing a good job with that because they have like the VLT token that people can vote with, so they're representing their opinions with the VLT, which I think is a cool way to do it. It's like having constituents almost. Whereas like with the OP model, if I delegate to someone, I just gotta basically trust that they're gonna vote for what I want them to vote for. I don't really know. They're just an individual. There's no accountability there. I mean, I could change my vote to I could delegate to someone else, I guess.
Yeah, it's something honestly I was worried about when the vault came about was maybe when they get large, the votes getting obfuscated for like proper consensus and maybe things don't get represented how they should. But if VLT is going to be used to, gather consensus around things, I think that could be one way to like avoid that for sure.
Yeah, I think I mean there's a lot of like discussion about them, and I think so far they've done a good job. Like
Yeah, I think
it's
so.
fairly transparent how
Yeah.
they're voting based on VLT.
Yeah, 100%. So I got you see hardcore there has put a Miro board together for us today. Yeah, thanks for doing that. And we'll be going off of that. So you can check out that link he dropped there, the public link, and you can move around on the board. And then I'm also live streaming. I think Anthony might be live streaming it too. And then we'll just work our way through this. I think today we're just kind of we're basically going over things we've already talked about the last couple weeks and just get consensus on what we're doing with the core prop or what the core prop could look like and go from there. So the first one is addressing channeling. There were two sig props that were created. There was a sig prop A that had three options, and then there was a sig prop B that had two options. But I think we had discussed that SIGPROP A was the one that was put together following the template, like the proper template. Um, and that one seems to have reached quorum. So SIGPROP A has reached quorum. And I think the consensus is use glitter to
Hmm.
move channeling times. So what are your thoughts around that?
So let's see. I see there's the one that's called allow players to customize their 24-hour channeling windows. That one got 5.2 million ghosts, not enough quorum, and then looks like the everyone kind of voted on, including the vault, voted on keep channeling as is, revert to Bible, or charge glitter. So, and that one seems to be use glitter to move channeling, which is cool. Does it say how much glitter anywhere, or is that kind of up to the implementation?
I think it's up to the implementation. I don't think it actually mentions the exact amount.
Yeah.
Based on your guys' take on the on the tokenomics of glitter.
Hmm. Yeah,
You know,
right
I guess
now, if we did, let's see, 10,000 glitter would probably be like a cent, right? Wouldn't
yeah,
it be
I mean
much?
hardcore makes a good point too. That one glitter, I guess we were representing as mined from one block. So if it's
Yeah.
being mined one glitter per block, how many blocks worth of glitter, basically should we spend to speed it up?
Okay, so we're talking if you did like 6 hours, not going to be a lot. It'll be so 6. Doing math on a live stream is always fun. So we have 6. That would be like 360 minutes. 60 divided by 2. Yeah, that actually comes out to around that. 6 hours would be about 10,800 glitter because it's 10,800 blocks.
That's not terrible. Like that's kind of on point with what you were suggesting initially of 10,000. And if they, let's say, wanted to do 12 hours, then you're looking at double that. So
I mean, I guess. Yeah. As people are saying, it does seem a little bit weird that if you're trying to move it to a better time zone for you, that you'd pay more. I don't know. Probably just a fixed fee would be easier and an easier implementation. And again,
yeah,
it's going to be like unless glitter really goes up high, it's going to be like 20 cents. It'll be like almost the same as your transaction fee. Won't really be very much.
yeah, exactly. And I think maybe that could just be, we could discuss that for the core prop. Like, do we want those two options? You can either use the representation of glitter per block, or we do a fixed glitter fee to move it to your chosen time.
Yeah. I mean, the fee is really, what are we trying to accomplish with that? Just basically because we know people will pay for it. Is that the reason to have the fee? Because it's good for glitter tokenomics.
That's the idea, because alternatively, I guess there was um, the alternative was to revert to the original suggestion, which was the 24-hour cooldown. And so this would kind of be like, you're paying for the fact that you have this custom option to choose, maybe. But I guess you don't really need to pay for it, as long as there was some sort of a way to say, you can only do this so many times. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it. So if we charge 10,000 glitter for all 20,000 gotchis, that'd be about 20 million glitter, I think it came out to, which at current prices it'd be about 5,000 USD. Like, so I mean, not super, and most people are probably not going to move it much more than that, right? Unless you buy the gotchi from someone else and then want to change it to another time. I'm
Yeah,
just thinking
yeah,
like, what are we trying to accomplish with this fee? Is it to prevent people from, if it's just to prevent people from changing it a lot, we could just do that. We could put a countdown. So it would just be like, you can't change this in 72 hours. It has to be like only a certain period of time to be able to change it.
yeah. That's the alternative I was thinking of. Is you could technically move it without glitter, but then maybe there's a period of time afterwards you can't really change it again. So you can't just keep changing it. Kind of like when you try and change your username on Twitter, I think there's like
Mm,
one change you can make every couple months or something. You can change your name once, and then you have to wait. So it makes sense if someone bought a gotchi, they would be able to change it one time to whatever's optimal for them. And then after that, they'd have to wait for that period to end before they can
mhm,
change it again. I think maybe the thoughts behind this were that it would just be a good glitter sink, a good way
mhm.
to have another method to burn some glitter, since we don't have a whole lot right now. But
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
not
know,
really
like,
gonna do much on that front. Like we're only
yeah,
burning 20 million glitter, which is
not a lot.
like one or 2 days.
Yeah. I'm just trying to see. I'll ask, the audience here, like, what do you guys think is, aside from, having a glitter burn mechanism, what would be the other reason to have a glitter charge for changing the time instead of just, changing it and having a window of time afterwards where you can't keep readjusting it? See what people say. Because I see what you're saying, You don't necessarily need to burn glitter if it's going to be a very menial amount of glitter. Like if it's not going to be tens of millions, I could see where you're coming from. It's not going to make a dent,
Right.
really.
Well, it will be if all the gotchis did it once, it'd be 20 million, 10,000 times 20,000, which is, sorry, 200 million. 200 million glitter. So, I mean, yeah, it's not insignificant, but it's also because it's one of the things that it wouldn't really be. It probably wouldn't be a sync that happens often. Like once you've set your time, you're probably not gonna reset it, right?
Yeah, I mean, once I have my time, like it was kind of with petting gotchis, you get into a cycle for a while till something happens. Maybe you miss a day or whatever, something happens, something comes up and you miss the window, then you might want to reset it. So it's not going to be something you're continuously doing for sure. It'll be every now and then, maybe you might readjust.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It
think
wouldn't take a lot of dev time. It would be fairly simple. I'm just thinking, is it like worth to add it as as a game feature? I mean, we
I'm just
can.
trying to.
It's fairly trivial to add it. I'm just wondering how much it should be. Do we really need it for what for the benefit that it's going to bring?
Is it also, could it potentially also be a deterrent? Like, to deter a new player away from even doing that, like they're like, okay, I gotta go buy this token now,
Mhm.
and I gotta go buy like 10,000 of them, and then I gotta go pay before I can change my time. I don't know. Like, I'm not a new player, so it's hard for me to see it this way, but would a new player, you think, look at this as like an inconvenience and say, nah, I'm not gonna do that? Or do you think they'll actually go, to the decks, swap out to glitter, 10,000 glitter, and then pay the glitter to change their time? Or I don't know. Like, does that add more complexity for someone new? Is that not going to be good for user experience? That's another thing I can just throw out there, but something to consider, I think.
Yeah, definitely an extra step. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I think Zico has a good point. The main idea here is that we want people to be able to change their times. Just a
Yeah.
matter of how we're going to get there, whether we want to do this glitter burn thing or actually just reset it so that it's more of a cooldown thing. I think either way works. It's just maybe one way might add an extra step.
It's just like this is a feature that it's open to everyone. It's not like you're paying extra to get something extra. The fee would be the same for everyone. It's not a very high fee, which means it's like basically just small burn. I mean, at these current prices, if glitter 10x's, it would be a little bit more, but even then, wouldn't really be that much. So I'm on the fence about adding a glitter fee, like a 10,000 glitter fee for every change, because it's not going to be a recurring thing that you do a lot.
Yeah, I think to hardcore's point, I don't think it's going to deflate the supply very much if it's not something that's going to be done regularly. That's a good point.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
if it was like going to be burned every day or every couple
Yeah.
days, people switching him, that would be different. I didn't think of that before, but
Yeah. Recurring sinks are the ones that really add a lot of value over the long term. I mean, they might, if the Gotchi changes owners, they might want to change the time a little bit. So it would be like a semi-recurring sync. It would probably wouldn't be very often, but it would be there. It would be present.
yeah. So um, I guess before we move to a core prop for this, we should definitely kind of think about what we want to do here with this. Um, because we do have to consider the new user who's going to come in and um,
Yeah.
they're gonna buy their first gotchi. Like that to me, to burn the 10,000 glitter, that's another video someone has to make to explain that. Because like I'm not gonna understand that. It's another token, so you have to understand what
Yeah,
this is. And then you have to
it's
be able to
yeah.
buy it and burn it.
One on a little tangent here, but we are planning to make channeling count as a pet for your Gotchi. So uh, I'm curious what everyone thinks about that. Is that something that we think we need like a sig prop for, or is like might just do it? Like, is that it's not a huge change to the gameplay, really. It's just a quality of life feature a little bit, helping the Matic network out a little bit.
I think it's great. Like you said, it's gonna just address thematic fees. That's all.
Yeah.
It's not gonna put a burden on them.
So yeah, it'll just count for a one pet per day.
No, future is a good question. Would that affect our like petting bots that have been set up right now? Like, would there have to be some adjustments made for that?
They would just have to check and make sure that they're. I mean, they could continue as they're doing now. They might end up petting gotchis that don't necessarily need to be pet, which isn't a bad thing, of course.
Yeah, I guess
So
it's
they
or
would,
maybe just another line of logic is gotchi pet. If it's not, then do this and
yeah, they would still need one pet that is not from channeling per day. The channeling's every 24 hours.
Hey, I had a quick question, and then I'll jump
right.
back on stage. If I channel for other people's gotchis as a lending operator, would that count as a pet for them? Because I've noticed that for some gotchis that I have in my possession, I can pet them, and then others when I try to pet, I guess they have the pet operator set up to like a petting bot or something. So would
Uh,
that go through if I'm channeling for them?
I think so. I think when we do gotchi lending, it automatically adds the borrower as a lending operator. And I think lending operator, it's not just like a single address. You can have multiple lending operators. And when it goes back, I believe it removes the lending operator.
Okay, good to know because that was going to be a second question down the road about if we can have more than one lending operator active per gotchi.
Mhm.
But thank you.
Yep. So yeah, we're very close to doing this feature. I just wanted to bring it up and see if there was any angles that we weren't thinking about that were potentially controversial. Otherwise, we'll just add it in this week. Just quality of life and save the Matic network a little bit.
Save us some matic too.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
So yeah, as far as adding glitter, like charging glitter, I mean we can. It's just it just feels a little bit like charging people pennies to do a quality of life feature.
I mean, could you give us an example of an alternative glitter sink that you guys already have worked out and how much glitter you're projecting to give people an idea, of scale? Like,
Right.
this is what an actual glitter sink looks like compared
Right.
to like what we're talking about. Because
Like
maybe
yeah.
that might be some of the confusion. I don't know, maybe.
So like a potential glitter sink that we'll probably want to add in at some point will be actually you will be able to deposit your glitter into the game, and then you could basically buy a potion with glitter that lets you move faster in the game for a short period. Now there is something we should consider with that is that while you're high on the glitter potion, it probably would not be a good idea to let people pick up Alchemica with that. It would be more of like a quality of life. Let me get from this place to this place faster, or escape from a boss, or something like that. Because if we let people pick up Alchemica with if they're sped up on glitter, it would essentially become like kind of a race to see who can stay hyped up on glitter all day, and they would pick up more Alchemica, which is kind of fun. So I mean, maybe, but we would have to consider that. But that's an example of a glitter sink because we could have that potion and people would kind of the ones that are trying to like get from place to place faster, or if it included Alchemica pickups, pick up Alchemica faster, would definitely go for that glitter.
Oh yeah, that's something people might even stock up on those potions so they can go do that. Before they go collect Alchemica, go grab 10 of these potions and then go collect some Alchemica.
Yeah. So that's like a cool idea that is it just becomes part of the game. And
And
it's
so
a
like
recurring sync. What we're trying to think
yeah.
of with syncs is it's either a very big upfront cost, like kind of like the rug, or it's a small but recurring cost. So it's either big or one time or kind of small and recurring. Those are the two kind of syncs to try and consider scenarios for.
So then, with that being said, I wouldn't consider then maybe this fee to be a sync because it's a almost like a one-time fee, but it's also a small fee. So it kind of
Yeah.
falls in the middle of it's neither of those.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem worthy or necessary to give it a sync because it's the benefit that you get from it is really not worth a big sync. Like we couldn't be like, all right, we're gonna charge 1 million glitter for this feature, but really you're just changing. It's like it feels very extractive to do that and like force people to pay 1 million glitter or something to adjust their channel's sleep schedule. So
Yeah.
that's just my feeling on it. It doesn't also seem like something that'll be used a lot. Like it'll probably be used a couple dozen thousand times, like maybe not even 50,000 times.
So is it maybe more of like a quality of life thing? Like we're saying, okay, well, maybe one channeling's like a pet. So, maybe you change your time because you live in a alternate time zone and you're probably not going to change it very much after that.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you send your gotchi, like you sell your gotchi to someone else and they need to change it. That would be like one example where it might get changed. But otherwise, you're probably not gonna change it unless you move to another place in the world.
Yeah, exactly. No Future is a good idea too. I like that idea of staking, but then only thing I can think of is that might just make it a little more complicated for
Yeah.
some of our newer friends coming in. But it's a cool
Yeah.
idea though.
I just think, yeah, it seems like something you should be able to change when you can channel with your gotchi, basically. It's like a built-in quality of life feature. I don't know if it necessarily warrants a glitter sync. But yeah, so everyone kind of let that marinate for a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, we'll sit on that one, and maybe one of the options for the core prop could be just just improve it as a feature and no charge, and then maybe have a certain period of time after where it's locked. You can't do
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
Might be a good option to add on there. We have okay, I guess we can move on to the next thing. We got level 9, the Notorious and Mikey J's modeling that they've done. I think the SIG prop uh, was out. I think it already passed.
Yeah, we
Let's
have
see.
6 hours left on that one, 4:20 a.m. But yeah, it's definitely passed.
Yeah. So that one's going to be moving to core prop. And I think the outcome for that one was recipe. Did we go recipe C? Recipe B. Let me look here. That was where is it?
Yeah, let's see. He said change the options was change the recipe and no keep things the same. So I guess
Oh
what
yeah.
exactly did they change to?
I think the recipe here was recipe C, if I'm not mistaken.
We looked at all of them and we gave some modifications for B that we really liked related to build time. So I think they might have gone with that.
Oh, here. Harvester's final. Okay. Yeah, so quick progress update. Thanks to Let's Go Bangless as well as Coder Dan for their work on reviewing the recipes and suggesting a lengthening to the build times of what has been known as recipe B for those who have been following along. This tweak helped achieve the level balance benefits of the previous recipe C without the undesirable side effect that was working to the detriment of smaller parcels. So yeah, the recipe and simulations are in the Google Drive. At this point, it seems that that Pixelcraft as well as Notorious BTC and I are all on the same page regarding recipe B as being the best option to present to the DAO for a vote. Please expect a sig prop from us within the next couple of days, that was the sig prop there that we voted on. And I believe what this addresses is vastly cheaper build costs, significantly boosted build times, especially at lower tiers, diminished rate of yield across all levels, but alternatively, vastly cheaper MakerBot. And now level 9 is roughly 50% of the cost of a level 9 altar. So it's a lot cheaper to get your makers going. But then your boost times, your build times are boosted, especially at the lower tiers. I'm just gonna, I guess, the advantages and improvements. Just making sure this is all part of the same recipe here. So I guess for those of you who are just joining us, this week, we've been talking about this for multiple weeks. And the original problem that they were trying to address with this model was in that current state, the harvester recipes were almost discouraging upgrading parcels beyond level 3 or 4. Yeah, and the recipes were too expensive in cost, and they were punishing yields at the higher levels. So this allowed the low leveler to get really high yields, I guess, with a lot lower investment compared to the other styles. And it was also, it says, too inexpensive from a time to build perspective. This diminishes the effectiveness of makers and the utility of glitter. So that is ultimately the problem that they saw there, and that's why we've been talking about these 3 different recipes. And it seems like recipe B, I guess, it's like a hybrid between recipe C and B. That's what we've decided to move on. So um, there's a lot of charts and numbers you can dig into if you want to. They have a document, an extensive document on this, but I think that's what we're basically voting on here on the SIG prop. So yeah, promote dynamic gameplay with a multitude of winning strategies. It makes this one specifically makes high level harvesters not only viable but desirable. So I think that addresses that point that I was talking about, where beyond 3 or 4 with the previous recipes, people probably would not want to upgrade their stuff past that because there was really no real incentive to do that. But now with the maker bots also being a lot cheaper, it does make sense to keep pushing for that level 9. And then the low leveler strategy is somewhat handicapped. And I'm assuming now actually the maker bot, if the low leveler wants to still use this strategy, they could use the maker bot to help them out to get to where they need to be. So they might need a higher level maker bot. That's what I'm thinking, but that's not a bad thing. And then this recipe also significantly increases build time for each installation and promotes a healthy glitter economy, which also we were just talking about for that last topic. It seems like there's a lot of people that do want glitter to be bolstered by many of these things. So this recipe actually, it favors that. So that's awesome. Notorious BTC, Mikey J, if you guys are in the audience and you want to add on to something I missed here, feel free to come up. But I think I've covered it. That's basically what this proposal is, and it's reached quorum already, 162%. So yeah, we got to move to core prop for that, and then get these recipes adjusted. Are you guys waiting on these metrics before you can push harvesters out?
They are, well, I think we're gonna be just in time. We'll have plenty of time to update them. If we had continued to delay, it would have definitely impacted things a little bit. But since we've confirmed it, I think we're in good shape.
Yeah. I'm just reading Dr. Wagme's messages here. New recipes will tank land values. You need less land if the focus is on upgrading and not expanding. Just checking from Iceland. I'll definitely support the delay of land auction number 3 given market conditions. Oh, okay. So this is addressing. Actually, we're gonna get to this topic, Harambe. This is actually the next thing we're gonna jump on. So, is there anything you want to add, Dan, for this sig prop moving to core prop? Is there anything we should consider when they go out with when they launch their core prop?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I do think that it definitely helps solve the issue of the low levelers, and I think in general, Let's Go Bankless and I are both quite pleased with it. So I think we're planning to put out a batch of core props next week. So this one will, now that it's finished, we will definitely include it in the batch. I think nothing really, no major comments on it. I think they've done a very good job.
Yeah, I agree. And there's been a lot of discussion as they've been developing this model. I really appreciate that they're in here pretty much every week for like 5 weeks while they're doing this. So it wasn't just them coming up with this. I think there was a lot of discussion around it too.
Yeah, I see Dr. Webmy says new recipes will tank land values. You need less land if the focus on upgrading and not expanding. That's an interesting way to phrase it. I guess he's thinking that one landowner might have like a lot of land that they would be focusing on expanding to other lands with their yield instead of upgrading to maximize it. So it's really just thinking of what we're trying to optimize for. If we're trying to optimize for a lot of low level harvesters everywhere rather than high level harvesters on fewer parcels, then yeah, this maybe it's not ideal. But I think from a gameplay perspective, we do believe that having higher level harvesters will be kind of more satisfying for a player, and which ultimately I think is what's gonna keep people coming and make them enjoy playing. It just doesn't feel as satisfying to have a bunch of parcels with level 2 or level 3 harvesters rather than like having like a pimped out level, like making the level 9s and 8 and 9s accessible to anyone with like enough anyone who wants to play the game. Whereas before they were quite high tier items. So what this proposal really does is kind of brings the 8s and 9s more into reach for everyone, and hopefully will lead to a more satisfying gaming experience.
I think by making them more obtainable, you're also allowing people to use a mixed strategy. Like I might use the low leveler strategy still, but also add in some higher level altars, or I mean harvesters to my setup. Not only because it looks really cool, but also because of the higher output. Adding on to my other yields. Yeah, so this is I guess this is a good segue into our conversation around land auction number 3. There's been a vote put out to delay the auction, where initially we were intending maybe the end of June. We were going to have the auction potentially for the last week of June, and now we're talking about delaying it because of the state of the market currently, and how prices may potentially get impacted negatively if we were to have this auction now. Um, I mean, I have a couple comments, like opinions about it, but I'd like to know, like, what do you think about this? How do the community? Let's see, we got some mixed kind of opinions, but what are your thoughts around this? Around delaying auction 3? The DAO wanted it at the start, so it's something we did vote for. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, in the macro kind of market, obviously not we're not in like ideal market conditions to, one, attract a lot of new players, and two, potentially like have a good outcome for the GBM auction in these current conditions. It would really just be, we're probably going to have mostly Gotchi gang participating in the auction. I don't really see a large potential for attracting a ton of like new players into the ecosystem, which is one of our goals with the auction.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it, in terms of just price, I'm personally not worried about the price of anything in our specific ecosystem because I just look at it like an opportunity. But my concerns are more around, are we going to be concentrating concentrating the land into the hands of a smaller amount of owners, which, it's likely if land's cheaper. Like, I know I'm going to be buying a lot more land if it's cheaper, and it's going to get concentrated into my hands. Likewise, every other Gotcha gang member is probably going to be buying land. And if the goal is to diversify our community, get more people through the door, then yeah, I mean, it's better to have more interest in the game and have more people willing to bid on these parcels. And my other concern is, would this affect our rarity farming season with a lower amount of ghost if we're able to, we use these auctions to raise funds for rarity farming. So would that also impact, the rewards we could potentially get from rarity farming as well after the fact?
Yeah, just for the first point, I try to think, if I were a new player to the ecosystem, I mean, we have these drops. These are essentially NFT drops. They're one of our best chance to get more eyeballs on the ecosystem. So we should use them as strategically as we can as a community to ensure that when we do the drop, we're going to kind of get the bang for the buck, and get new eyeballs, get people interested in potentially getting their first piece of land in the game. So if I'm a new player and there's, like, for example, all the land in the Citadel has been sold, and someone maybe has already surveyed the parcel, maybe they've put an altar on it, they've started uh, surveying it and harvesting from it. I'm probably like going to be less likely to want to get that piece of land and start farming on it, just because like someone else has already farmed a little bit from it. That's just my way of thinking of it, but I would be like, I would rather have like a virgin piece of land and like start my own journey rather than like having to buy someone else's land from the secondary market. So, and there could be some like unsurveyed parcels, but the incentive also is to like start harvesting as quickly as you can. So when we do put out these parcels, once surveying and harvesting begins, I would think the majority of them will probably be opened up and starting harvesting. So it just seems, if we do the parcel sale now in this environment where we're probably less likely to get new players coming in, then when they are ready to come in, we would they might look at our market and say, oh, I don't really want to buy this parcel that's already been farmed on a little bit. I want to have like a fresh, pristine parcel to use. So it might actually end up hurting us a little bit, like potentially. I don't know. Maybe that's my feeling on it. I'm curious what you guys think. But I mean, the DAO did vote for it, so I think, and we have the capacity, and we have the land. It's just a question of when should we deploy it for the greatest benefit to the ecosystem.
I also look at the same with the haunts too, but the auctions and the raffles are promotional events for us. So we gotta think about if we were to do this right now, are we gonna get a lot of attention? I mean, this is something I'm kind of curious about this. I want to know, are we gonna get more attention right now when our land prices are down, just like everyone else is? Sandbox is down, Decentraland's down. We're kind of in the same boat as everybody else, except with the pricing of our land. Um, are we gonna get more attention now in this bear market from people looking for opportunities, or are we better off waiting for when things start turning around and then do the land auction because we think we're gonna get more attention from the event then?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely going to be harder to sell things during a bear market because a bunch of people just got liquidated. Like it's incredible, insane how many people lost a lot of money from like these stablecoin farms exploding. It's really terrible. Celsius going down, like UST going down. People have lost a lot of money, so they're not going to have much appetite for anything at this moment.
And then another thing I wanted to, us to consider is the sentiment, like the general sentiment around crypto right now. If we are trying to attract new users and people who maybe are just getting into crypto, I feel like Aavegotchi is really perfect for that. But if we're going to be attracting those people, there seems to be some bitter sentiment around crypto right now with Celsius exploding and a lot of retail users losing their funds that way. Like the sentiment around crypto I get is not that great.
I
So
mean, just in general, like the consumer sentiment around the world is like, it's terrible right now. Inflation's at 8%, and it's not just crypto. Like stonks are down, everything is down. The dollar's inflating. It's like the whole macro environment is like really messed up right now. The interest rates are starting to rise up. Everyone's like fixated on the interest rates going up, which is gonna potentially like cause a recession. So I think the whole macro environment, like it would be a little bit weird to launch like a new NFT sale with NFTs that already exist and like have an auction for them. Like if you were doing a new NFT collection, maybe. We've seen like Goblin Town was fairly successful. They kind of launched at a good time because they're a new collection. But since we're auctioning off NFTs that have already been sold before, it's kind of continuing the collection. Then I don't know. I don't think it would be really market ideal to do something like that.
yeah.
As far as rarity farming, so the DAO, I mean, we do have funds in the DAO. We kind of earmarked all the funds from GBM auctions for land to be used in the Gotchiverse or for specific Gotchiverse reward programs that currently don't really exist, but kind of just setting aside those funds to be used in the Gotchiverse. So I'm personally not a huge proponent of like using those funds for rarity farming. But the DAO does have another treasury, which is not, it's just the DAO's normal like general treasury. If you go to app.aavegotchi.com/treasury, let's see how much the DAO, let's see, loading. Says the DAO treasury holds, waiting for it to load. There we go. 2.5 million DAI and 3.5 million Ghost, which after this token swap, we will be swapping out 1.75 million DAI for the equivalent amount of Ghost. So actually, the treasury is getting more Ghost. It would just be up to the DAO if you wanted to potentially use that Ghost for rarity farming. That would be an option. So even if that's a decision that the DAO would need to make. Is it a good idea to do that? Put that Ghost to that use.
Yeah, so basically, if we forego this next land auction, there is an alternative option to maybe get the funds for this rarity farming. And then once we do get those funds from the land auction, we can fill the tank back, right? We can put these back into the treasury. Is that kind of how that would work, maybe? Or
I mean, yeah, you could do, yeah, because I think we have quite a bit of a treasury for the Gotchiverse already. So yeah, if you wanted to use those funds to like fill the tank back up, that could be something that you could do.
because what I could see potentially happening is we do this, we say, all right, we're not going to do land auction 4, and then we take the funds out of here, and then we do land auction number 4, and then we say, all right, when rarity farming season 5 now, like is that going to be a problem, or is that something where we just put the funds back? Like, is it a bad thing to just take the funds out and not put them back? Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to put what was used for this kind of emergency rarity farming back in if once you get them back.
Okay, well, that's interesting for sure.
Gonna calculate, so 1.75 million DAI to calculate what that's gonna be, but it probably comes out to around 2.5 million Ghost. It's gonna be a fairly big chunk of Ghost now. Might be off on the math there, but it will be a fairly good chunk of Ghost. So that would also be an option if the DAO wanted to do that. So the TLDR is that we don't have to delay rarity farming. There is Ghost available without having to dip into the Ghost that's been allocated for the Gotchiverse.
All right, yeah. So just gotta decide: are we delaying? I think it's already reached quorum, actually, hasn't it? This
Well, no, it actually hasn't. That prop has not reached quorum yet. There's 20 hours left. I don't know what the vault is going to vote, how they're going to vote.
72%.
Does anyone know in the vault what they're planning to vote? And when?
Yeah. Well, I know.
Do they have a
And
quorum in the Gotchi vault? Like a certain number of vault that needs to be reached?
I have some VLT. I've never voted with it though. I'm not sure they're using Snapshot, or they must be using Snapshot, I guess, if they're voting with it.
I mean, that could be something interesting. They could add a quorum. If it doesn't reach quorum, they just don't vote on the main vote. I don't know, 18,000 vault, is that a lot? I don't know the total supply of it, so I don't know how representative that is.
Yeah, I think they're 250,000 VLT in circulation. Yeah.
All right, well, they need to probably should unless they just if this vote like doesn't reach quorum, then probably we would just continue with our current plan, which would be to have the auction in July.
Yeah. So we'd be delaying by a month?
Yeah, the issue with the timing of that, we were really we wanted to do it basically the last month, the last week in June, but because of July 4th, like a ton of people are just going to be away. It's not really an ideal time to be finishing up an auction. So we would do it the week after July 1st, July 4th.
July 4th. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be July. It would be the week after July 4th. So I think it would end probably on the 11th. But I mean, a ton of people in America are going to be out. So don't think we would want to do it on that weekend. Like half of our team is also like on vacation.
Yeah, so I guess Zico's saying like how are we gonna decide when we're gonna do the auction then? If we're gonna say we're gonna delay it, if people's concern is the market prices of land and player interest, like I don't know if it's realistic to think that's gonna turn around in 2 weeks. Like that could be waiting for months for that to happen.
Yeah, I think whenever like after the harvester release, we'll kind of have a new baseline to see the activity in the game, and if like we need to ensure there's going to be new interest in people wanting to get some new land.
Yeah, for sure.
Like just to make sense to wait for another sig prop from the community for that.
Yeah, so I guess it would be like if we are to delay this thing, then we got to just basically feel out the sentiment when try again when the time is right. We actually had a very similar vote like this earlier with Haunt 2. We delayed Haunt 2 for how long? It was like a couple months, right? 2 or 3 months, I think we delayed it. And then we had Haunt 2 after 3 months, I think. So this could be a similar kind of deal, maybe. We have Zico up on stage too.
Hey, yeah, I mean, you basically brought up what I was going to say. I know Jesse made a post about his new suggested date for the land auction if it is delayed, but from the sentiment I was getting from people like in chat, it didn't sound like they just wanted to delay it 2 weeks. Like at the very minimum, it sounded like a month, but that's at the very minimum, if not longer than that.
I can't remember the reason why we delayed it in Haunt 2, but it was a couple months before we waited to gauge sentiment and launch for that.
Like people
Yeah, I
have
mean,
different
who
reasons.
knows? We might liquidate Suju and then the super cycle will continue. But if we continue to go into a deeper bear, it's just going to be harder and harder to like justify having a sale of like continuation sale of NFTs. I mean, we might just liquidate them and Bitcoin will go back to 30K.
I think
But
some
who
people wanted
knows?
to delay the land auction for until after the harvest is released, because that was the idea of the original prop for the land auction to be 2 weeks after um, 2 weeks after the harvest is released. So I'm sure that's why some people voted for it. Some people just voted for it um, because there's not really much, like we're going to be adding more land and harvesters and without like many sinks for Alchemica. Some people voted on it based on like the current state of the market in general. There's a lot of different reasons why people voted for it. So I don't think 2 weeks delay is really sufficient for most people who voted to delay it.
Yeah, I mean, if we're delaying it for the reasons that are stated, it's like we either do it now or we wait till the market is actually favorable for this, which could be, like you said, could be months. But like people have to decide that.
I think as more gameplay comes on and the realm like starts getting more and more popular just because of its popularity, it's a fun place to be. We'll start seeing more appetite for land coming on. I mean, right now the gameplay is still very, very early. People are mostly in there because there's Alchemica spillover, but that will eventually change. There will be new things that we're working on, new gameplay that will have people in the game just because they want to be there, not because there's tokens to pick up.
I think you touched on it there. That user-generated content is going to be a huge reason for people to come into the game, regardless of what the macro environment is. And that's going to, adding utility to the game itself is going to increase the value of land, regardless of price. So we can only hope that as we keep increasing utility of the game, the fun of the game, generated content, we're increasing the value, like the intrinsic value of what you can do with your land. And we're hoping that basically the price will at least come up to meet that value as it's rising, because
Yeah.
if land's getting cheaper, but you're adding more features, then you're getting more for your money when you buy land at that moment in time. So I see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, if people are valuing land just because of the amount of Alchemica inside of it, and Alchemica is going down, or stabilizing at a lower price, then adding more land would continue that. Like they would continue to devalue it. But as we add more features that actually increase the overall value of the game, of the space, that would definitely be more bullish for the floor price.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we'll see. I mean, let's let the DAO. We have 20 hours left on this vote. We'll see what happens. It's definitely interesting. Waiting to kind of see what the vault is going to do at this point, I think.
Yeah, the wait and see kind of deal on that one. And then once we get consensus, we can figure out, okay, how long are we planning to wait for this? Look at the features coming out and make a better decision around, okay, when are we going to actually gauge to do a second or a fourth, auction. Okay,
Yeah,
so
and I think we will have some utilities for the drop ticket holders coming up soon here. So it won't be probably the equivalent of a land auction or land raffle, but there will be something, guys. So it's not totally hopeless.
should we talk about I guess we can quickly touch on estates, because there's a sig prop I think went through for that as well. That met quorum for potentially changing how we're going to deal with estates, having estates tied to, I believe, the altar level, compared to the estate, or the lodge, and that was to kind of give the lower tier parcels more utility for creating estates. Yeah, here it is. Gate estate size by altar level rather than lodge level. So I guess the end goal benefit this proposal is trying to pursue is estate building is a great opportunity to create a fun metagame of building a large estate and help users see the value of a parcel as more than just its alchemica harvesting potential. The goal of this SIG prop is to help realize this future for potential landholders. So there's two approaches that we're looking at here in this proposal: increase the benefit of estates, decrease the cost of creating estates.
Can you explain to me what the benefit of a lodge is then, if it isn't tied to this?
Well, I mean, we don't fully know, in my opinion, we don't fully know everything we're going to be able to do with the lodge, but it sounds like it's going to be a social space where you'll be able to actually go inside, you'll be able to customize it, be a meeting place for guilds. I feel like that's going to be the main utility of a lodge. Like I don't know. Do you think something different, like alternative to that? That's what I see as estates, or the benefit of a lodge being is the space where you can customize it, make it your own, and it's a gathering space as well on your parcel.
I
Yeah,
just find it weird.
that plus the guild channeling as well will be part of that.
Yeah, I just find it weird that we're voting on something that we don't even know how it works yet. Like no, all the answers have been like kind of vague, and it's like, how are we voting on something when we don't even really know how it works?
Yeah, I think they were just looking at a lot of players that may want to get estates, but would be looking at the potential price point of the lodge, and they're not necessarily looking to get like a level 8 lodge. So they just might feel priced out for having the estate, but they still want to have like an 8 parcel estate, basically 8 or 9 parcels. So I can definitely see it. Yeah, it seems like it definitely makes sense as a proposal. If they basically just, it's a preference, right? Do we want estates to be for basically everyone with a higher level altar, or is it more like a bigger flex of kind of showing that you have this like massive guild lodge, and also which lets you then put all these parcels together.
Is there going to be a needed incentive to keep upgrading your lodge? Like, are we going to run into this problem that we had previously with harvesters, where if we remove this, if we uncorrelate this to the lodge and it's actually now tied to the altar, is that going to remove incentive for people to upgrade their lodge past a certain level as well? Like, will it negatively impact the lodge if we were to do that?
The main buffer, like the main benefits of the lodge are currently, well, one of them was the estate, and that develop the dependency of that. The next one is obviously guild channeling, and being able to have like multiple wearables attached to your guild. Each 3 levels of the lodge would get you another wearable attached. And then the other one will be, as you level up your lodge, the actual space inside of it and the decorations that you'll be able to like furnish it with will get more and more, they'll get bigger and also kind of more ornate as a space. So a level 1 lodge will be smaller compared to like a level 9 lodge, and they'll also be very, like, we're planning to have all sorts of token access and like different access for different rooms within the lodge. It's basically like a big social space that will be kind of like a hangout for guilds.
Oh, that's gonna be really cool. I don't feel like so then I guess in that sense, the lodge is not really tying that to estates is not really a major benefit by any means, because the lodge already comes with all these other things.
Yeah, I'm curious, how big are the estates you guys are planning to build? Because I think a lot of players will probably want to have like a level 1 or level 2 lodge on their parcel, just because it's like a cool social space. You might not want to go up to like a level 9, but you might want to have a lodge to begin with. So if you're trying to make like a 10 parcel estate, yeah, currently with the current rules right now, it would be pretty expensive because you would need that lodge. But if you only want to have like a level 1 lodge with two parcels, it really wouldn't be that much of an investment.
So I mean, yeah, like I'm kind of in the same boat with no future. I have maybe 2 to 4 groupings of parcels that I could connect together.
Mhm.
That would be fine then. If I went to, I think, a level 3 or 4, I would be okay with connecting those. So like I consider myself just like I'm not a whale, I'm kind of like everybody else with uh allocation of parcels. So like I'm not going to be connecting 10 parcels together, but I could see some people doing that. It's just about like how many people really are gonna do that. I don't know.
Mhm. Well, I mean, it looks like this SIG prop has passed basically 87 to 13%. So looks like the community has voted pretty strongly on this proposal. And it is fairly early to even be talking about this. So if the community changes its mind in the future, we could also have a vote to change it back. But this is where, if we put this core prop out next week, we will include this one as well for the community to vote into the Gotchiverse Bible.
Yeah, it's like a tentative thing. It's like, oh, we might realize this was not the right decision to make, and there might be an alternative proposal comes out.
One question: should a level 1 altar give you the benefit of an estate, or I could see that this could be a thing for like upper tier altars, right? Like maybe a level 5 altar starts letting you make an estate, or would we want to only have it for like starting at level 1 lets you link one parcel?
Is the altar recipes are not as alchemic intense as the Gotchiverse or the Lodge recipes, right? Like the Lodge is definitely more intense with how much alchemica you need compared to an altar, I believe.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're thinking of in terms of how much alchemica you're gonna have to use to get those benefits, maybe you start at like a level 3 altar to link parcels or something.
Mhm.
I
And it
think a
would
lot of
probably need
people
to be
have
all
level
of the
3.
parcels.
Yeah.
Right now, with the Gotchi Lodge, you actually only need one lodge to, like, you can have one lodge and then you can link all the parcels. They don't need to have lodges on them. But with the altars, if you wanted to link it, you would probably need, so you would, let's see, you'd probably need like,
So wait, then is it actually just more expensive to do it like this then? Like,
yeah,
wasn't
I'm thinking through it.
the
Like
point
if
of it to make it
you,
like easier for people?
yeah, like that's the question. So if we made it as level 4, Tamagotchi here says level 4 gives 2 additional parcels. We'd probably need to specify that each of those parcels would also need to have a level 4 on them. And if you want to get 3, this is when it gets a little bit complex. Would you have to have all level 5 on them?
Yeah, I mean, this completely changes how it works, really. Like the fact that you need to have them all at a higher level completely changes how it works.
Because in this case, the idea of the lodge was that there would be one parcel that had the lodge on it, and that would be kind of like the center focal point, and then the other ones would just kind of be added to it. But if we're talking about altars, there would be no host uh, host parcel. They would just kind of all be linked to each other.
I'm someone who already spends a bunch of time like in the Discord and on threads and reading everything in the blog, and even for me this discussion feels early because like I'm not exactly sure how everything works. So I mean I can't believe we had a vote on something like this already.
Wait,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking over this now. Actually, it would be a lot more expensive because if you were to switch it to altars, um, yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Someone needs to do the math on a level 9 Gotchi Lodge versus 9 or 10 level 9 altars, I guess.
I mean the altars are going to be way more expensive. Like like it's not like an altar and a lodge are almost the same price, give or take. Like it's not too far off. Okay,
But you do,
it is too far off, but like it's
yeah.
10 altars is way more expensive.
But the counterpoint is that people already have the altars because they're using them for other things.
Yeah, I guess.
You also make a,
But like I mean I don't know like who's most people probably aren't getting level 9 altars on their humble parcel though, right? Or on their like humble parcel. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of the point. I thought that was kind of the point of the alter thing, so that people with smaller parcels could do it more easily.
Yeah, I'm surprised with this vote because I didn't even realize this was a SIG prop. I mean, I don't check the vote religiously. It just totally slipped by me. And then I went on it the other day. I'm like, I just looked at it. Oh, I didn't even see this vote before, and somehow it already reached quorum.
It doesn't specify in the vote though if it was supposed to be like one altar for multiple parcels, like how the lodge works.
Yeah.
Like what you're saying is that it would need to be multiple altars. I'm not sure that that was the intention of the vote.
Yeah, I don't think that was factored into this. So either we would stick with that and factor that in, or we would have to think about removing that stipulation. But if you remove it, it's like which parcel is like there's no lead parcel in the
You
group.
don't have a host.
Can't you just go based on the highest level altar that's connected?
It would have to be something like that. Like you could have a level 9 and you can equip like up to 4. They could all be level 1s.
Like, couldn't you, like, say you had 2 level 5s, couldn't you just like increase your max level of connections, which with each level of each altar based on its level? Like, if you have 2 level 5s, they both give you 3, and then you connect another one that's level 2 that gives you another 1 or something like that, and it just keeps expanding like that.
Oh, that would be very expansive to have like 3 for a level, like 1 level 5 giving you 3.
I was just throwing it around, right?
Yeah. Also, there would be no, I mean, there would be no maximum if you did it that way. You could just keep connecting until you own the entire
I guess, but
district.
you'd also have to own every single parcel in the district, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we can, maybe there will be a core prop, but I feel like this will be an ongoing discussion as we get closer to the actual estates coming out. And there might even be another core prop we see down the line that addresses this.
Yeah, we'll give it, for this one, I think we can give it another week of discussion, unless I wish the proposal creator was around. Talk about their thoughts. But one kind of more pressing issue here is we are iterating on some ideas for potential invite only or cartridge idea that would like to share with everyone to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, right on.
So
Yeah.
so everyone's fairly familiar with the basic idea of the cartridge. There's a lot of questions about it, but the general idea is that you would have you as the kind of the asset owner would get these cartridges that you can then give out to players, which would then allow them to join the game and participate actively. Now, what that means is, I don't know if anyone's following in the DAO thread here, but we are kind of talking about a little bit some different ideas for what kind of access levels the cartridge could give you. Because one of the biggest downsides to the cartridge model is that it's like a fixed airdrop, and then after that airdrop is over, it basically becomes like very difficult for a new player to get a cartridge, because like someone who goes on the bazaar and buys a realm parcel, they're not going to have a cartridge, but they have an NFT asset. They should be able to use it in the game, but they don't have a cartridge. So one way to get around that would be to make cartridges mainly for picking up spillover. Basically, anything related to ground alchemica would require a cartridge. But if you don't have a cartridge, you could still come into game. You could still channel alchemica. You could still empty your reservoir, build on your parcel, all that fun stuff. But the spillover would be a cartridge only kind of feature that you would need a cartridge to do that. So a bit nitpicky, I think, but that would be one way to kind of get around that issue. And then if we can solve that issue, then I think the cartridge system is actually very interesting. I have some cool ideas on kind of profit sharing that I think would really make it even like more of an interesting system. So the patron, the original owner, could receive a percentage of the alchemica that's spent by the player on crafting. This could come from the pixelcraft allocation, or we could split it evenly with the DAO. Either way. So the reason that the player would be crafting alchemica is because their cartridge would have like a limited play time. When they get the cartridge, they open it. It comes with a certain amount of play time, 14 days, maybe 30 days, certain amount of blocks on chain. And so every time they craft something, it would increase their playtime in the game. They would be able to continue doing whatever they're going to be doing with the cartridge, whether it's entering the game or if it's just picking up spillover. So what we're trying to solve for here is trying to align incentives between everyone to want to actually use their alchemica and thinking longer term than just, all right, let me get in this game. I'm going to get some tokens. I'm going to sell them for fiat as fast as I can. That's like very, very short term thinking. We're trying to solve for longer term thinking here and getting people to actually like stick around in the game. And so one way to do that would basically say, if you want to keep playing this game, you want to keep picking up spillover, you're going to have to spend some of that on crafting, which is going to give you this cool NFT asset. And now you're kind of you're a member of the Gotchi gang in the way. You have this cool, you have like a rug, or you have a piece of grass. You can go over to the bazaar. You could sell it immediately for fiat. You could still do it that way. You could like undercut the market prices by a lot and probably offload it pretty quickly. That would be one way they could still continue to kind of extract from the game. But I think there would be a higher number of players who would start thinking a little bit more long term if we give them this option. So crafting would increase the amount of time that they can stay in the game. It's like if you don't craft, it's game over for you. Your cartridge is going to run out. You'd have to get another one. But if you craft, not only is your patron going to get a little bit, they're going to get like a percentage of the alchemica you spend. Your patron is also going to level up a little bit, because every time they have a player who crafts for them, like crafts, they were invited by this patron and they craft, the patron would also have like some sort of NFT soulbound that would increase in level over time. And what that would do is every month or every week, we have to decide on that period, but basically every period, the patron would be able to craft a new cartridge. They would be able to mint one. It'd be free, and they could mint it, and then they could give it to another player. And as their level increases over time, they would be able to mint more and more cartridges for more players. So and the other thing we're trying to solve here for is having a social verification system without any KYC, and also without any punishments, direct punishment for Gotchi owners or asset owners, because we don't want to punish the asset owner, but we need to have a way that incentives are aligned a little bit more, so that they want to have good players who are going to play the game as it's meant to be played, and they're going to come in, they're going to spend some of their alchemica on crafting rather than just like selling it directly for like extracted like from leaving the game by getting fiat. So the patron would kind of be incentivized to find good players who are going to play it how we as a community want them to play the game. And then they would over time level up, increasing their cartridge, allowing, or whatever we end up calling it, and then allowing them to invite more players faster. So I have a whole doc for this. I'll try to We've been iterating quite quickly on it over the last couple weeks, but I'll try to make a post on that next week. But I think it's one idea that definitely has merit if we can fix the issue of this idea that like a new player who has a gotchi asset would be unable to play in the game. We definitely don't want that.
Yeah, I see in the forum you actually had a response to that. I guess someone had asked, would new land investors automatically receive a cartridge? You said no, this is the main downside of the cartridge model. If we give everyone who purchases land a cartridge, then bots could wash trade with themselves to earn cartridges, undermining the entire point of exclusivity, which is what we're trying to address. It's now possible to have an exclusive game while also maintaining always on access for NFT holders without inviting botters to the party. New landowners or even gotchi owners would need to acquire cartridges just like everyone else, which, it adds a little bit more friction. Thus, we run the risk of making it too difficult for new participants to enter the game. There are benefits and downsides to all approaches, but I do believe that bots will be near impossible to defeat on a technical level. Yeah, I mean that's the bottom line, right? Is we have to use a social approach to getting these out there, and maybe the guilds could play a part in um, getting these new players a cartridge, or alternatively, I mean, I don't think you know about this, but John Gotchi has been developing a mini game quest along with an AMM he's designed for Alchemica specifically. It has a really nice interface too. It's a lot nicer than QuickSwap. And he wants to basically run a tutorial through, how to use an AMM, how to do like some of the basic things that we do in our ecosystem, and use that as like a tutorial quest. That's what he's working on right now. So if that could be used, maybe you do this quest if you're a new owner, and you can earn your cartridge that way. Is if you just complete the quest, you can get a cartridge if you're verified as an asset owner.
Right. Yeah, we'd have to think about and look at that quest very, very carefully because again, anything that is like tech oriented, it can be botted. So I'd have to look at exactly like what that quest is to see how resilient it would be. But definitely, I mean, there could be a more technical solution.
Yeah, or like I guess maybe adding a technical component, but basing it basically a mainly social based approach with some technicalities in there.
Yeah. One thing I do want to have, I mean, we're always big fans of on-chain systems. So if the more on-chain this system is, I think the better. And like games need to have clear rules that people can easily understand that aren't going to change too often. So these would all be all the things I mentioned above could be coded into a smart contract and basically made immutable, which would be pretty cool. Whereas things like if we try to quantify, any kind of off-chain data would then make it harder to do it in a completely like permissionless way. So what I really like about the crafting is they're doing an activity that we want them to do, which then allows them to play longer and also gives benefits back to the person that invited them. So it's like a nice circle there. The owner, while they're not being punished for inviting bots, if they do give their cartridge to someone who gets banned, well, they've essentially wasted that cartridge for a month. They won't be able to do any. They'll be falling behind compared to their peers who did the work. They found like good players who are not going to bot and not going to get banned, and they're going to be moving ahead faster than the guys who try to do it the dark way.
Yeah, and actually, hardcore even has a good point there that once if that's the incentive is to craft to keep playing, once they start crafting and actually maybe selling some things on the bazaar or creating a market amongst themselves, they'll actually realize that it's actually more profitable than just dumping the Alchemica. So that's kind of the hope there, is that they'll actually get more involved in the ecosystem, because their incentive here is still I think is not gonna change. They'll still want to make money, but how they do that will probably benefit the ecosystem a lot more than them just dumping the raw resources on the market.
So yeah, the important distinction here is we need to think about this issue of, if they don't have a cartridge, what can they do in the game? Because we definitely don't want to do like a full restriction on, if you don't have a cartridge, you can't join the game. That's gonna ruin a lot of things. But I think the obvious, one of the obvious answers would just be, at this current stage of the game, where spillover is basically the only kind of gameplay that we have. If you don't have a cartridge, you just can't pick up spillover. That would be, but you can do everything else. And then the other big issue with this would be distribution, making sure that people have enough cartridges to support the scholars and the relationships that they've already been curating, like, for the past month or two.
Yeah, Ben Langan saying, is losing a cartridge for a month is the same as losing a gotchi for a month? No, I don't think so. No, because you can still, if you're an asset owner, you can still do all your activities, including picking up spillover. Right? It's only if you're a scholar renting an Aavegotchi and you have a
So
cartridge.
yeah, so here's, this is the interesting part. So when we drop these cartridges, we would basically target all of the Gotchi asset owners and give you kind of like a retroactive airdrop of this patron cartridge. So I think someone called it console. That's kind of interesting. So like this patron console that you would have, that would be soulbound, and you would basically have that asset. If we could theoretically allow you to transfer it, maybe for a glitter fee, a significant glitter fee, to transfer it to another address in the case that, like, your address got hacked or you wanted to switch it. But generally, it would be bound to that wallet. And so what we want to ensure is that all the Gotchi owners that are currently here would have this patron kind of the console or cartridge. And then you guys would start earning player cartridges that then you could give out to your players. We would probably also give out a limited number of player cartridges based on the current number of kind of active players that we currently have in the game. Probably would be a couple thousand, I would say. So that, in addition to the player cartridge, and then the patron cartridge together, would be the cartridge airdrop. And then from there, we would just say, okay, every week or 2 weeks or month, however fast we want to grow, basically, is you would be able to mint a new player cartridge to give out to someone. And then this is where it gets really interesting, because you can kind of start doing onboarding. You can go to people on Twitter or wherever and be like, hey man, I got this cartridge. I'm looking for a good player to come in and like use it. So it actually makes it easier for you to go out and onboard new people, because like you have this opportunity for them. Whereas right now it's like, oh, anyone can join in. It's super easy. But having a little bit more exclusivity actually makes it more interesting for like the outreach part.
It may sound a little bit like a small detail, but I do think it's important to call them two different things. I like the idea of calling the patron cartridge actually a console. I mean, that actually adds to that exclusivity. Like, oh, I have a console, let me get you a cartridge. I'll mint a cartridge for you from the console, and really make sure that the two things are like sound very different, rather than two different types of cartridges that could be maybe a little confusing.
Yeah.
So, maybe, okay, so we have console owners in the Gotchiverse. You could either go find someone who owns a console, or, I could go on Twitter and say, hey, yo, I have a console. I'm ready to mint some cartridges. Maybe DM me if you'd like one, or we'll do a raffle for one or something, right? I could do some fun event around that.
The so Quincy, I know you've had a thread that's on a similar idea here. I've been trying to follow it a little bit, but I'm not totally clear exactly what it's doing.
I kind of
It's
read through it this morning, and the gist of it is essentially whitelisting, or like whitelisting plus a cartridge idea. So it's like whitelisting for people who don't own gotchis and or don't own and assets. I think he specified like land or gotchis. And then if you do own a land or gotchi, the market would be an open market.
This
So
is actually, we're talking about for gotchi lending, basically.
yeah, so it's essentially just like the main idea is that it would make it easier for gotchi owners to borrow gotchis to be able to channel plus whitelisting.
Okay, I mean, first question with that is who is going to be doing the whitelisting?
So it was basically like the vote we had. It would either be like it was like whitelisting or turning off Alchemica. So it would be like whitelisting for people without assets, plus people with assets can rent more easily. They wouldn't need to be on a whitelist to rent from other people.
What do you mean? What do you mean, like rent more easily?
Okay, well, it would be like it would be it wouldn't be as hard to rent as the whitelist idea essentially. Like because
But why? Like,
well, okay, so like right now, if we went with the whitelisting idea and someone who had an extra 30 parcels needed to rent gotchis to channel on those parcels, like it would be hard to find someone to like you would need to be on a whitelist to rent those gotchis, right? So like that's the main advantage to this.
but like, how is gotchi lending as a like product changing? It sounds like making it easier. I don't quite like what would be the features that we're adding, or like
So
simplify it for me. What are the features we're adding in or removing here?
it's just like a combination of two ideas, right? It's like a combination of whitelisting only plus plus having like the current system for gotchi owners. Or for land or gotchi owners. Like the idea is that it's whitelisting only, but if you're a gotchi owner, it's the current system for renting.
Okay. Okay.
I mean as far as I know, that's basically it. Like we were discussing it in the other channel. So I said, so the main difference between your idea and just regular whitelisting is that it allows owners to be able to rent gotchis more easily to channel. And he said, yeah, pretty much. Which it does. Like, but that only
But wait,
it's
but how does
okay.
it how does the
Okay, so
gotchi owner rent more easily to another player?
okay, so it's the gotchi owner rents more easily to another person with a gotchi. So the it's basically whitelisting for it's like basically the whitelisting idea for everybody. Plus, if you own a gotchi, you can get gotchis more easily to channel on your other parcels. It's kind of confusing, but like my logic was basically like it's kind of like the cartridge idea, but like not as flushed out. It would be I think it'd be quicker to implement probably, but did Jesse raise his
Yeah,
hand maybe,
I'll
or did
be
Quincy raise his hand? Maybe he wants to come up and explain it himself.
yeah, I'll be honest. I'm a little lost there with
Yeah.
that suggestion. But, I mean,
We
it's
are, speaking of hardcore, we are planning to implement a new wave of parcel access rights like next week, which is going to include equipping. It's going to include, well, channeling already is there, but basically equipping installations and tiles. You'll be able to delegate that to another wallet, mainly because like, I mean, I experienced it the other day. I have a hardware wallet. Trying to equip like a ton of grass on my parcel is not the most fun experience right now with a hardware wallet. So that'll be nice to be able to give that permission. But unequipping will not be happening yet because that's a bit more complicated. We need to think through that a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know how the whitelisting and the allow list would really be affected by partial rights, I guess. Yeah,
Quincy raise his hand.
the thread is there. I mean, I've tried to read through it. There's a lot of like.
I think I
wasn't super
understand it. So
clear on
like
the features.
if you have questions, I think I can answer it. I just don't know how to explain it necessarily.
Like technically speaking, it just from, I think in terms of smart contracts. So
Okay, so like
okay,
there, I think it would be you would get like the owners of current gotchis would get an NFT that would allow them to rent off of the market without needing a whitelist.
okay. And then so so how do we fix like new entrants with that buy a
entrants who
gotchi
buy?
off the bazaar? So
I
that so if
think I think
someone
his suggestion was essentially like every month or something, you airdrop it to new
oh
users or
god,
something like that.
yeah,
I believe.
yeah. Okay, so we'd have to. This would be like a manual thing. We'd have to kind of maintain, like
I mean,
checking.
another thing we did talk about in regards to this is how much dev bandwidth do we want this to take up? How much actually bandwidth in general do we want this to take up, and who's gonna share this responsibility of making sure we're letting the right players in? I think that's the whole idea behind the social based approach, where the burden's kind of almost shared amongst the community and Pixelcraft to like make sure this happens. That is something to consider while we're like coming up with solutions, is who's going to share that responsibility, and where's the bandwidth going to be taken up.
Yeah.
I
Well,
agree, zero dev bandwidth is best, because we want you guys shipping all the stuff that like we're looking forward to and we talk about all the time, and not get so hung up on an issue like a botting issue. We
Yeah,
have
like
to deal with it.
what I said to Quincy earlier was essentially like if the devs are going to implement some sort of airdrop cartridge idea, they might as well just go all out and do like the one that you've been working on for a month or whatever at this point. Like I don't really see the point of like implementing a half measure just to have to change it again in a couple of months.
Yeah. There's a couple finer points here about the cartridge, just so if anyone listens to this later, they'll know. So I think it also could be possible to sell the console, if we're going to call it a console. You could sell it for a certain amount of Alchemica. I think it would be fairly pricey. And another benefit you could have of that console could potentially be actually getting cheaper Alchemica crafting. Because if you think about it, if say you have two wallets, one of them is your console wallet and the other is your player cartridge wallet. With the current system I just outlined earlier, you would actually it would be smarter to actually use the player cartridge wallet to do all of your crafting, because you would get a 5% or however many percent discount. It would be sent back to your patron wallet. So it's actually a little bit disincentivizing the patron to craft because they're missing out. So what we could do is we could actually give the patron a little bit of a discount on crafting. Could level up every time they level up. It could reduce. It could increase their discount a little bit. So that would solve that issue as well. That would also be a more compelling reason to go and actually buy a console, because I think it could be a fairly significant like investment, because you're essentially kind of creating a franchise. You're getting your console, you're going to start getting invites for people, and so it's going to start driving the growth of the game. We want to ensure that the right kind of people are getting consoles.
Quincy raised his hand if you want to let him come up and try and explain it better than I could, because it's obviously not my idea.
Hey,
But had to turn the mic off.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep,
Oh, yeah.
yep.
Oh yeah, we can
Oh,
hear you.
so, what is the questions?
Just basically, just can you give like an overview of the features that you would want to be implementing with your allow list?
Well, it's not really a feature because, like they were saying, it's more like a general pass for the open market. Because right now, the open market is the one that's actually providing most of the bots, and we need a way to actually go from the whitelist being a goodwill vetting to go into the open market as almost a vetted place. Right now, I realize that majority of people do the open market just to do rents. And with our chemical being turned off, it's only channeling. And so now I was looking at this as a way of actually doing like a pretty much of a pass for the open market, where if the person who was not on the white list, but they needed gotchis to actually channel their land, and a person had a whole bunch of gotchis and they wanted to get a percentage of it to channel on their land, they can still do that now without trying to take up gotchis on someone else's whitelist. Because truthfully, not a whole bunch of people actually did whitelists, and not a whole bunch of people really want to go through the trouble of trying to do scholars. And I was trying to do this as a kind of medium stopgap until the cartridges were really flushed out.
Yeah, so you mentioned like airdropping an NFT to, is it to the Gotchi owner that would allow
Yes,
them to, and what would allow that would allow them to rent out, they would
yes,
be
that
able
would allow
to
them
borrow
actually.
Gotchis.
I'm sorry. Yes, that will allow them to have access to the open market. Because
Okay.
right now, if you don't have a whitelist, you're not really getting any gotchis. Because, like I said, with the open market being like it is now, a lot of people not really putting anything out there because they don't want to contribute to the bot problem. And the ones that do it are trying to get cheap rentals.
And then so we would have the Gotchi owners or the realm owners would get like an NFT, and then everyone else would still be, they would try to be getting on guilds or whatever's allow list or whitelist, right?
Correct. Because in my opinion, the guilds are the ones that are doing scholars should be the entry point to anyone, new owners or scholars, because you really need to learn the game first to actually contribute like you need to in the game. And now it actually, in my opinion, would put more people into going the guild route to the scholar route to learn the game first, maybe get some assets, and then get in. Because with the time spent during the scholar / learning phase, they learn the game, they get more transactions. And so when it's time, like I said, to do this on like a typecast, like we already do for XP already, have the typecast and they submit the address, you'll be able to check and see, say, okay, yes, this person has been in this long. I see they haven't really been an extractor. We can just get one in on the next drop.
Hmm. Yeah,
My-
that's a little bit where we have to be careful, because then you're basically creating a rule. You'd have to have a very specific rule about threshold or something that is transparent that everyone would know, like a rule that they need to abide by in order to receive this like NFT.
Correct. I already have it outlined in the thread that I put, but that we use like the Discord ID, since everyone already uses it now just to get XP on their gotchis. It would do the know your role, know your scholar, to see what their activities had been, and then you can check and see the age of the wallet. So if someone who just did a wallet just then, they would not get one because that looks too much like a bot. So then they would actually have to go the actual whitelist route to actually pretty much prove who they are.
But I guess my only thing here with this is, if we're trying to you say this is like an intermediate to short term kind of solution till we get the cartridges. But then also in doing it this way, if we were to implement this, it's gonna slow down the time that it's going to take to actually get the cartridges out. If the end goal is cartridges, then maybe we should try and just push for that, if that's like an optimal solution. But I will ask, you with, the way you see it, is there a problem you see with the current cartridge system that we're proposing, compared to, like, does the way you're suggesting it fix something that the cartridge system doesn't? I think that would be my main question.
No, it does not, because this is going to go in tandem, like you said, in the interim. Because right now, we could give our devs the breathing time, the room to actually concentrate on the game. We don't have to worry about working on the cartridge, because they can come back at a later time to really flesh this out and get it correct. Because as I did the proposal, I said, I do not see this as anything other than an alpha type thing, where it's like very restrictive to get into it and maintain it until we get to a point where we can open up to everyone. And I'm looking at it more as when they have the cartridge system already fleshed out. So we can just go to it now. And then the time spent using this way would just be POPs, pops inside your wallet.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. But I guess I will mention, I think Coder Dan, you were saying the actual contracts for the cartridges have already been kind of created. Like in terms of, okay, what's the fastest time frame we could see these cartridges being implemented? Because if it's only a couple weeks, Quincy, I don't see the need for, especially since we've already turned off spillover, to implement something like that just for a couple weeks. But if it's going to be a couple months or like 6 months or something, I could see a need for like a stopgap solution, like what you're suggesting. So, like with Coder Dan, how long do you think this would take to implement? Like, what are some maybe projected dates if we were to start working on implementing this, like over the next week or so?
Yeah, I think we do have a little bit of bandwidth with our Solidity team right now. So I think we could definitely continue with all the features I've kind of talked about earlier. Those would need to be added and reviewed and thoroughly tested. So that would take a little bit of time. And then the kind of well, ideally we would have some sort of front end system where people can see like their cartridge level and how much they've earned and all that, but that could come a little bit later, like a dashboard. So really it's just the Solidity part, and then defining the airdrop, figuring out who is going to receive them and how many player cartridges they would be receiving, kind of like which could be a bit controversial, so we would need to work through that. And I think it would be doable by July. I'm fairly optimistic that we could get it done basically as the harvesters are launching, or maybe right after.
I mean, that's the other thing, right? Is we all want harvesters and we want to start building stuff out. And we're hoping we can launch harvesters with the spillover enabled. So if we can get the system implemented by then, we would also not only be getting the harvesters sooner, but we'd get the cartridge system implemented. Whereas I'm not just referring to Quincy's solution, but any other alternative solution that maybe is not going to be a long-term solution might just kind of slow things down for us to get there if it's going to be July. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and also there would be like two systems that people would need to learn. It would be a bit confusing.
Yeah, I like Quincy's idea.
Yeah,
I'm just looking
I
at
would
the
prefer
timeframe
not
of this.
to. I'd probably prefer not to change too much about the Gotchi lending system as it currently is. So
I'm kind of confused. How has this actually changed the actual lending portion other than gated access?
yeah, we would have to change a little bit related to like if you own this NFT, then we would have to add some like excess additional permissions on the Gotchi lending side. Wouldn't be too bad. It's just we'd have to add that in as well. Kind of going through.
Okay, and what I was saying was not per Gotchi, it was like be per wallet holder. So it'd be a little easier. So you don't have to put each one per each Gotchi. It's just wallets, which they already provided when they did the type form, when they did XP.
Yeah. Yeah, I think your solution, I mean, it wouldn't be too bad to implement. But I think the main question just is, should we do that, or should we spend a little bit more extra effort to get a more fleshed out system that kind of incentivizes it? What I like about the cartridges is that we could have a little bit more economic incentive, because what we might end up seeing with just a whitelist is that some of the guilds might just add like known botters to their whitelists, and we can't really punish them for doing that. I mean, we could ban them. We could ban the players, but they could keep adding them to the whitelist. We currently don't have any sticks against them, and we're not really open at this point to adding sticks. So we need to think, what are the carrots that we have as available options?
So there's no stick to someone with a bad whitelist. You say you can't ban the whitelist at all?
No, we can't do that.
I mean, they could just make a new whitelist.
That too, and that we're not really open to like having we prefer to set up a system and then let it go as naturally and organically as possible. We're not going to be micromanaging whitelists.
Okay, cool. Cause like I said, I have nothing to do with whitelists. I was just doing the open market. But that is good to know though.
Well, but the issue is that someone could create whitelist and then add a bunch of botters to the whitelist, and then the botters would be able to get in that way. And there's nothing we could really do about it unless we started punishing the Gotchi owner, which is not really something we want to do at this point.
Yeah, that's one of the downsides of the whitelist only idea when it was initially announced, was that some people just don't care if botters are renting their gotchis, and they could just the botters could just keep making new whitelists and just keep renting gotchis.
So yeah, that's the biggest downside, and with just a whitelist solution without any sort of other economic benefit. Because what we need to do is we need to force No Futuristic says I'm one of those peeps. We need to get No Futuristic to be very selective with who he wants to rent his gotchis out to. Because by being selective, he gains an economic advantage in the game.
Okay, well, like I said, if like you said, it was gonna be like in like a couple of weeks, I'm good then, because from where I was sitting, there was not really a time limit or time frame when the cartridges were actually going to be done. It was always, we have this plan, we have this plan.
Well, yeah, we need to work through all of the facets of it, make sure that it's solving all the problems that we need. But yeah, I think right now, I mean, spillover is turned off, and we have some time to plan a system that we think will work for a long time. But yeah, I mean, I think your solution is definitely, any contribution is welcome to the conversation, and everything moves everything forward. So definitely any sort of contribution is helping out. So yeah, definitely thanks for the effort.
Well, thanks for having me up here, guys. Appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for coming up here and fleshing out your proposal. We appreciate that too.
I'm gonna have to get off here, guys, but yeah, I think that was so definitely there's this thread if you want to continue chatting about the cartridge idea. I pretty much outlined it as I view it up to this point, so feel free to poke holes in it. I think the main controversial idea would be if someone doesn't have a cartridge but they have a Gotchi land, or they have a Gotchi, what should they be able to do in the game? That's probably one of the lines that we'll need to think about. And then also, how should we allocate the initial player cartridges will probably also be a kind of a hot topic. So feel free to contribute to that. And yeah, I think let's look for another wave of core props coming out next week, including the token swap. So again, thank you to the community for voting so overwhelmingly, 99.82% for that. Just like, yeah, thank you for your vote of confidence, and we will definitely use those funds very, very carefully and make sure that we are, using these DAO funds and our Pixelcraft funds to move things forward in the best way.
Yeah, for sure.
Just lets us give another middle finger to the VCs. We don't need to have VCs telling us what to do. Feels good.
I mean, that's extraction right there if we want to talk about that. But one last thing, I want to just bring it up. I know you have to go, but T-Bird's boat, can we keep talking about that here? Can we bring it up next week? We did a little live stream on District 420. It was it was cool. We were out on the open water with T-Bird, and it'd be kind of cool to see some branding on that. However we can make that happen.
Yeah, do you have any like pictures, tweets? Feel free to add the Aavegotchi. I didn't see any tweets come in, but
okay, yeah,
maybe.
we were live streaming it, but we were actually doing the episode live, and we had him on the boat, and we actually had Humble Beggar, who was another Gotchi Gang member, on the boat as well. So it was a really cool hangout. But I could see a lot of potential there for doing some live streams with maybe his potential customers, or we could definitely brainstorm some really cool ideas on how to promote Gotchi Gang with through his business. And yeah, T-Bird, I see you in the audience. Maybe next week you can come up here and actually talk about it. I think it kind of be a nice change of pace from the other things we're talking about related to the Gotchiverse. And yeah, it'll be fun.
Cool. I'm gonna sign off here, fam.
Yeah,
Have a
right
great
on.
rest of the Sunday.
Yes, he is.
Thanks. Peace.
Later.
Yeah. Later, friends. We'll see you potentially Gotchi Space tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. If you'd like to come hang out, we're on Twitter Spaces, so you can come check us out. Have a good weekend, everyone.